I just started. I've seen it before, but I started watching The Last Dance again. Got the newborn on the sofa time, and just chilling and watching some things that I know I like. And I fired up The Last Dance again today. And not to spoil it for y'all, but it's about the Bulls seeking their second three-peat in the Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan era. And
about that?
Yeah, I'm sure about it. I haven't got much sleep lately, but I've
been watching a lot of. Listen, when he said that, the only thing I could think of was all those TikToks I've been seeing of "I think you should leave."
Yes.
You sure about that?
You sure about that?
God. So good. Anyway,
but the whole crux of the documentary is the Bulls actually had some drama going into that three-peat. It wasn't just for lack of any other term. I hate that I'm saying this. It wasn't a slam dunk like everyone thought it was going to be. And, the GM, Jerry Krause, was in the way. He was the roadblock that was potentially going to dismantle the whole thing and prevent a three-peat from happening. Ro, I know you've written about this before. You've done a I Georgia will three-peat. But I just kind of was sitting there thinking, if Georgia doesn't three-peat this time, what will be the biggest roadblock in the way? I don't think it'll be Kirby Smart because he is the de facto GM. Josh Brooks, I guess, if you want to consider him part of that equation too. We've had all this quarterback talk. I can't help but think that disrupting the quarterback position could be the biggest thing standing in the way for Georgia to three-peat this year. And that's no disrespect to any of those dudes. You just knew what you had in Stetson Bennett.
Well, I do want to point out that I wrote why they will and why they won't. I can't even remember what I said for why they won't at this point.
You weren't just coming through saying Georgia definitely won't three-peat.
Right. Yeah. It's I had the quarterbacks on there. I mean, that's some uncertainty there. I think Georgia's been kind of lucky. Well, I say that. I was going to say I think Georgia's been kind of fortunate on the injury front. But, Christ almighty, they lost guys at some point last year, lost 3 of the top 5 guys I would have said they couldn't lose. Jalen Carter for a minute or two, Nolan Smith for half the season, A.D. Mitchell for basically the whole season. And with the way they're
Smile Munden for a couple games.
Who's that?
Smile Munden.
Yeah, right. I think if they lose, I still think, they're in a position where if they lose, if they do something like quite frankly, like what Ohio State or Alabama did late last season, where if they lose a big time player in a key moment in a key football game in a playoff in an SEC championship game, that could derail them. But then again, we're talking about a hypothetical. I think you got to come back to the quarterback thing. What I will say though is, to kind of get back to the scrimmage for just a second, I don't think it's because they won't be loaded at tight end still, because obviously you got Oscar Delp there, but there was a freshman tight end who kind of took over that scrimmage on Saturday, playing with the second team, third team. I think you got some first team reps too. Get your eyes on Lawson Lucky. If you've been reading DawgsHQ, if you've been over there with us, you saw it coming. The dude balled out Saturday in the scrimmage, based on everything that I have heard. So I don't think it's going to be the tight end position, but I will say that getting settled in at that quarterback spot, and listen, Stetson Bennett was a special dude. There a lot of those big moments and the stepping up. The guy played 6 postseason games in his career, and he was MVP in 5 of them. You need to find some of that magic.
Yeah, Alex Mitchum taking the words out of my mouth here in the comments. Replacing an offensive coordinator and a quarterback, and I know there's a big asterisk by the new OC. Right, he was on your staff last year. He's already been an OC before at this school. But replacing those 2 components at the same time is tough. And that's why Cedric Van Pran coming back is just massive. You have some stability in that equation anywhere, especially on the offensive line and with the guy who gets every play started. You can't overlook that one as a reason why Georgia can three-peat, because there at least is still some stability there.
So I got one that we haven't talked about, and it, again, kind of relates to what we heard yesterday after the scrimmage. I think it could be outside linebacker and the lack of a pass rush. because of how young they are at that position, because of what they're having to replace on the defensive line in Jalen Carter. The front seven, you feel good about Jamon Dumas-Johnson and Smile London and what they've got at inside linebacker. But, I do think that there's a lot to replace there in that front seven. And it's not nearly what they had to replace last season. But I think with the talent that you're losing and the experience that you're losing in Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Robert Beal, you've got a lot of younger guys that are going to have to step up. And you need guys like Mykel Williams to take a step forward. Well, Mykel Williams is now, limited, in terms of how much participation he can have and what he can do. Kirby telling us that he was having surgery, and that was a thing that had been built up over time. To me, I think it's that outside linebacker room is probably my biggest concern about the defense. And offensively, I think it could be it goes back to the running back position and what Georgia is losing there in Kenny McIntosh. I do think that they've got good running backs, but as we talked about on our last show, do they have a playmaking, game-changing running back? And I don't know. And to me, a lot of that happens out of the backfield, and I don't know that they have one of those. So those are the two positions that I would look at and say, if Georgia was to not three-peat, this would be a reason why. And it's the lack of a playmaking running back out of the backfield and the inexperience that they've got and a potential lack of a pass rush at outside linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, when we spoke about how big Georgia's running back room is this year. And on one hand, that helps you because you just got a bunch of bruisers, but you really have to lean on Dejan Edwards to be like the change of pace guy.
Yeah,
that can give you something different, give you a little bit of a different look, different equation.
You also don't have those easy short throw, long gain guys at running back that Kenny McIntosh kind of gave you. I don't think it's out of the question for Georgia to reach into the portal for the right kind of running back, for the James Cook, Kenny McIntosh type of guy that they can line him up back there. They can hand it off to him. They can throw, they can screen to him, stuff like that. Rhett Womack brings up Dwight Phillips. Yeah, absolutely. I think Dwight Phillips would be a very welcome type of running back on this team right now. Unfortunately, Georgia won't have access to him until 2024. But yeah, I think that's the kind of back that could really help Georgia, could help Mike Bobo, could help a young quarterback. And one thing I will point out about Mike Bobo is that his running back screen game is far superior to the running back screen game we've seen under any offensive coordinator under Kirby. You go back to Jim Chaney, who rarely used it, and then James Coley a little with DeAndre Swift. Todd Monken here and there, but nothing, extensive. Bobo, I look back to the 2007 Alabama game. Bobo's really first year as an offensive coordinator. Thomas Brown, Noshawn Moreno kind of slicing and dicing Alabama with those little slip screens. Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, Todd Gurley, same thing. Todd Gurley gave Florida absolute fits, I believe in 2013 it was, with the screen game. And he likes to use those running backs out of the backfield. He likes to throw the ball to those guys. Will they go get a guy that's there? And I think that's very possible.
How about a Brock Bowers screen?
Yeah.
Mike Bobo mixing it up a little bit. I mean,
did that with Artie Lynch in that 2013 Florida game, and Artie dropped it, and it was a lateral, and he didn't realize it, and Florida got on it and kind of turned that game around with that turnover. But Georgia still won the game.
Yeah, that's a blast from the past. I totally forgot about that play. I just wanted to touch on that. I know that we feel like there's a lot of reasons why Georgia can three-peat and why they will. But you look back at Alabama's season last year. I mean, coming into the year, they had every reason that they were going to be on the warpath because they lost to Georgia and they had revenge on the mind. This year, Georgia doesn't have that same kind of motivation, but they've got the same juice behind them. Georgia should three-peat. I think they're kind of the media darlings at the moment because of that schedule we talked about earlier. But there are a lot of reasons why Georgia won't either. A lot of reasons why Georgia can't.
It's also just really hard.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough.
There's a really good chance that Georgia runs the table and wins the SEC and runs into a buzzsaw in the playoff.
I love this question.
A really good team.
I love this question from Rhett Womack. How about Dylan Bell getting reps out of the backfield? He does kind of fit that running back mold a little bit.
Yeah, he's put together like a running back. Dominic Lovett is too a little bit.
And he played it some in high school too.
Yeah. Dylan Bell played some quarterback, some running back. He's kind of a Kyrus Jackson type there. I've always kind of mistaken those two, by the way, just by the way they look in their shoulder pads. You don't see a number; they kind of look the same. But I mean, I think that's a really good example. But you know, I mean, like I said, I think that they'll have enough defections. I want to say that they're probably at 88 or 89 on the scholarship total right now. That's including the guys that are going to enroll in the summer. So if you lose 4 or 5, then you got a chance to maybe add a running back, a scat back type.